Hello there, welcome to the official video for 2024. Thank you for joining me. Happy New Year to you, amazing creative. Happy New Year to you all. And if you're seeing my face for the first time, welcome to the channel. My name is Nkechi Nyere or Vivian Okeke, whichever you want to call me. Thank you for joining me on a continuation series on Make My Wardrobe with me. So come with me while we make this shirt as one of the outfits I want to be seeing in my wardrobe. Now the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the link on my description box. I have a link down there, and this link is a video where I show you guys how I draft out the pattern for the shirt we're about to make. Okay, so go on that link, create your pattern, and come join me. I wanna all night. Say it. I wanna all night. I wanna all night. Since we last kicked, and by the way, just got in town, and I won't let you miss. The first thing I'm going to do is fold my fabric into two, and I used crepe fabric for this particular project. Also, I used a total amount of 2 yards in creating this shirt dress. So I'm just going right ahead to iron down my fabric so that everywhere is flat and not rumpled. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my pattern paper, and I already mentioned that the pattern drafting video is available and the link is just going to be on the description box below. So please go watch, draft out your pattern, and come join us here. So go right ahead and pin down your pattern paper to your fabric that you have already folded into two. And next, I'm going to start cutting. So while cutting, I left 1/4 inch allowance round the whole fabric. And this is not necessary because the pattern already have allowance. But I decided to do this because here it's a shirt and I want it to be really big. Now remember that your front is going to be open, so you need to slice that bitch open. You need to open up your front piece so you have two different fabrics, okay? Next, we're going to go ahead and cut out the back piece. So go ahead and fold your fabric into two again, and then grab your pattern paper. Make sure that on your folded fabric, you place your back pattern on the closed edge of your fabric, okay? Very necessary because the back is closed, okay? The back, center back is closed, and make sure you have like a folded edge there before you place your pattern paper. And then go ahead and cut out your back pattern or your back piece. So this is what my back piece looks like. I'm just going to open this up. So we'll take a look at what I have here on my table. Next, I will be creating the button band on my front piece, and on here is my interfacing. I already marked a width of 1 inch, and the length of the interfacing is longer than what I have on the shirt length. Okay, so I have something longer than what I have on the shirt length, and the width of my interfacing is 1 inch. Okay, so this interfacing is what I'm going to be using to place on the front opening to create my button band. And if you created this pattern with me, you will know that we left 3 inches on the front from the center front in, and that is what we're going to be using to create the button band. So I'm just going to place my interfacing on this opening here, making sure I use the gum side of my interfacing. I place that on the wrong side of my front piece, and I'll iron this down. So the heat from the iron is going to automatically glue the interfacing to your fabric, and then we're going to move on to the next stage. Now I'm just going to cut out the excess. Like I said, I actually have something longer than my shirt length, so I had to cut out the excess. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be folding in my interfacing with the fabric. I'm just going to fold it in once, and I'm going to iron this down. So folding this in once means that I have exhausted 2 inches of the allowance we left for the button band. And we actually left 3 inches of allowance for this button band. So now I have exhausted 2 inches of the button band, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold this again. So I have my complete 3 inches allowance used. So iron this and make sure everything is flat, and then we're going to go ahead and fold this in one more time. So I'll fold it again the second time. And this automatically means that we have exhausted the 3 inches allowance we left in that front for the button band. And for me, I feel like this is very, very easy method to create a button band on your shirt. Let me know what you think. So while you're making this, take your time to iron this carefully and make sure that what you're folding is exactly 1 inch, and you folded this 2 times, okay? So let's take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew to hold this in place, okay? We're going to sew on this point to hold it in place. So when sewing, make sure you sew at the extreme edge of the fold, okay? You can see where my needle is sitting very, very close to the edge, and I'm just sewing this straight down to the length of my shirt. And this automatically has created the button band, and let's just go ahead and see what the result is going to look like once we're done with this process. So this is what I have. You can see now I have a point where I can create my buttonholes and place my buttons. Next, we're going to be joining the front and the back piece together, and this is how I'll be doing this. So this is one of my front piece. You can see the button band here is created, and this is the other piece of my front piece. Remember I said you're going to have 2 because the front is open. We're going to be placing buttons on the open part of the front, and that's why you have the button band there. So this is my back piece, and I'm placing my back piece on my front piece. Now I'll go sew by 1/2 inch on the shoulders, and on the sides I'll be sewing this in by 1 inch. When sewing your front and your back piece together, always remember to sew in by the allowance you've left, okay? Never take more than the allowance you have left for sewing. Always sew in the allowance that you have already created or left while creating your pattern or while cutting your fabric, okay? And that is what I'm doing here, sewing in only the allowance that I have left. And next, we're going to be creating the sleeves. So this is the result. My front and my back piece is joined, and of course I'll go in with my iron to make sure everything is laying really flat, and because it is actually needed for you to see the results that you're doing so that you know the next thing to do. You get, like, always check out your results before you take the next step. Now the next step for me to do is trim out the unwanted parts that I am seeing, especially on the armhole. I'm just going to go ahead and trim this off. You get, I'm just going to make sure that what I have here on the table is ready for the next step before I take the next step. And that is what I always do, especially as a beginner. Always make sure you confirm before you take your next step. The next thing I'll be doing is creating a sleeves for my shirt, and always make sure you measure around the armhole on your shirt before you start creating your sleeves. So this is the fabric I'll be using to create the sleeves, and I'm just going to fold this fabric into 4 because I want to cut out the 2 sleeves I need for the left and the right hand. So I'm folding this into 4 layers of fabric, and then I'm just going to iron this down so that it is really flat. Now you don't have to fold like me, you don't have to fold your fabric into 4. You can fold into 2 first and draft out one side of the sleeves, and then use the fabric that you have drafted out, the first one, to cut out the second one. Okay, so what I'm showing you guys here is the width of my fabric after fold and the length I'm going to be using. So the length I'm going to be using is 21 inches. That is how long I want my sleeves to be, and the width I have after folding is 12.5 inches. So I like to draft out my sleeves on a pattern paper, but because of this is a beginner friendly video, I want to show you how you can use your fabric, cut out your sleeves on your fabric, mark everything on the fabric, and then cut it out on the fabric without going through the process of using a pattern paper. So what we're going to be doing here while creating the sleeves is the easiest method of creating a sleeve, the sharpest and quickest method, the trickiest method, okay? So what I will do right here is I'll be marking 8.5 inches on the length here. That is going to be how wide my sleeves is going to be at the length. So I'm using 8.5. And on top here where I have all fabric folded, I'm just going to be marking 3 inches in. So you can see I have closed edge 4 fabrics and I'm marking 3 inches in. So I'm just going to trim off the rest that I don't need because now I already know what I'm working with. So I'll take off the excess so we can work on the proper sleeves. On the open edge here, I'm just going to be marking down 5 inches. So take note, this place is open. I'm marking down 5 inches. And the next thing I'm going to do is connect the 3 inches here with a slight curve and connect it to the 5 inches. And like I told you guys, this is the easiest and the quickest way to create a sleeve. So see how I created the sleeves by marking 3 inches on top here and then, marking 5 inches at this other side and connecting with a slight curve. The next thing I will be doing is marking down my elbow point, and my elbow point is 12 inches. Now you guys, please ignore this particular point. This particular process is not necessary. The sleeves I'm creating for my shirt is a very, very free sleeves and it does not need elbow point. Okay, elbow point is when you are creating a fitted sleeves. So I didn't actually need this part. I don't know. So ignore. This part is optional. Ignore. Now I have to confirm the measurement I have here on the curve and make sure that it's exactly what I have on the armhole of my shirt, okay? So the first way you can do this, because there are actually 2 ways you can do this. The first method is take that armhole, place it on your sleeves curve like this, just follow it carefully and measure and find out the point that your sleeves or your armhole stops on the sleeves. I'm just going to indicate mine here. This is where I need to stop when I want to cut. The second method is for you to use your tape and measure out what you have on the armhole of the shirt and use that measurement and mark on your sleeve curve, okay? So for me, I got 10.5. So I'm going to use that 10.5 and so I got 10.5. I'm going to calculate 10.5 from this curve here and make sure that it is what I have here. And you can see, yes, ma'am, it is what I have. So I'll connect that 10.5 down to the length, okay? Like I said, the elbow point was not needed, so I cancelled it. I actually did not need it. So I'm just going to connect that line straight to the length. And this is how I created the sleeves for my shirt. Very, very easy and very, very beginner friendly. So the next thing to do is cut out, what we are going to be using and take out the excess. Throw it away because we don't need it no more. So this is automatically the sleeves for my shirt dress. So I'm just going to open this, separate it from the other fabric. Like I told you guys when we were creating that I have 4 layers of fabric. So that means I have 2 sleeves, one for the right hand and the other for the left hand. Now let's go sew. So while marking the curve, while marking the measurement on the curve, I actually left half an inch allowance or 0.75 allowance on the curve, so I can use this to sew my sleeve. So whenever you're measuring your armhole on the shirt, whatever measurement you get, make sure you add allowance, okay, for sewing. So the next now is to connect the sleeves, is to join, not connect, is to join the sleeves to the armhole. And this is how I'm joining it, okay? I'm doing this from the right side first, and then I'll turn to the left side, that's the wrong side of the fabric, and I'll sew, because you always sew on the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so I'm sewing around the armhole, joining the sleeves to the armhole, and I'm just practically sewing this by 0.5 inch. And once that is done, this is what I have. This is what it looks like. The next thing I need to do is create a collar. So the collar pattern I'm going to be using for this shirt, the video is already available, and the link is just going to be on the description box below. So I have my fabric here and I have my collar pattern already. So what I will do is I'm going to be ironing this down to the fabric, but before then I need to fold my fabric into two, okay? Very necessary. So fold your fabric into two, right side facing right side. Now place your pattern. After you have gone to watch the video and you have created yours, place it like this. So my own collar pattern is on my interfacing, and I'm just placing that interfacing on the wrong side of my fabric. And now I'll make sure that I place it in a way where I have allowance round the fabric, okay? There is allowance round, and I'm just going to iron this down. So the heat from my iron is going to glue my interfacing to my fabric, and now I'll go ahead and cut, okay, or trim off the excess. Now I don't need more than 0.5 inches round the collar. So the allowance I need round my collar right now is 0.5 inches or 0.5 inch, sorry. I don't know why I'm adding S. So now just take this to my sewing machine and sew, you know, following the whole curve on the collar. So I'm just practically sewing on the collar, okay? And make sure you pin your collar to the other fabric, because there are two fabrics here. Make sure you pin before you go sew, so you don't sew and it is moving. And another thing I decided to do is iron this down first. The allowance I have at the base of my collar, I'm just going to iron this, okay? Like I'm ironing the half an inch allowance. I'm ironing it into the interfacing first before I go sew. And I'm just going to be sewing following the shape on my collar. Just carefully. If you're a beginner, you see the way I am doing, the way I am turning. That is the way you need to turn, because we only need the shape of the collar on this fabric, and that is why we're sewing on that. You see that shape on the interfacing? That is what I'm following. So once that is done, we can go ahead and trim this totally off, okay? So we're going to be trimming all the allowances or the extra fabric that we have on the collar, because we don't need it no more. We have sewn around the interfacing, and you know, we have followed the shape already on the fabric, and now we're good. So we're just going to trim off every other, you know, excess that we don't need, and make sure that we trim this off following the shape of the collar, okay? The shape of the collar on the interfacing. That is what I'm doing. So watch what I'm doing and do exactly what I do. Do as I do. Don't worry. So you can see that this is the shape I have, and I'm just going to iron this other allowance here on the other side of the fabric. I'll iron this in, the half an inch I have. I'll iron this in, and I'll go ahead and flip the collar to the right side, and you guys are going to see the results that this is going to be given. So go ahead and flip. So while flipping, I couldn't bring out this edge, so I tried to use my scissors to, you know, poke it out, like check it out. And I'll do this on the other side too, you know, make sure that every edge is out on the wrong side, and then I'll go ahead and iron this flat, because we need it to be flat, baby. So this is it. flat. Next I'm going to do is, for me to get the middle point on the collar, I'm just going to fold it into 2 equal parts and iron. And then on the neckline of my shirt, I'm going to be getting the middle point also by folding it into 2 equal parts, and I'll use my scissors to notch what I get on this other side, on the back side of my neckline. Okay, I'll notch this. So this is the middle point. So what I have to do is I have to match this middle point to the middle point on the collar. So the ironing I did on the collar, why I folded into 2, just indicated the middle point on the collar. So I'll just go sew, matching the middle points together. Let's go sew. So while sewing, all you have to do is place your neckline on the shirt in between your collar fabric, okay? The collar has 2 fabrics. So place your neckline in between the collar fabric and then top stitch very, very close to the edge of the collar. Now make sure that the part that has the interfacing on the collar, your collar has a part that has interfacing. Make sure that that interfacing is the part that is sitting on the right side of your fabric, okay? And at this point, you have successfully attached your collar to your shirt. Clap for yourself. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new. Now for the finishing, I took my shirt to a nearby local tailor, and they weaved the whole edges of the shirt. And then I just started folding in the part I needed to fold in, especially on the sleeves. I folded it in by 1 inch, and then I top stitch, or I just sewed, after folding to hold it down. And on the base sew of the shirt, I did the same thing, folded in the edges after weaving. And for the buttons, I'll be showing you guys how I fixed my buttons to my shirt, okay? And why the local tailors were weaving my shirt, they created a buttonhole for me, and using the buttonhole, I used that to know the points that my buttons were gonna sit, and then I attached my buttons to the shirts. And you guys, this is how I created a shirt for my wardrobe. Now you guys, I created 3 shirts at the same time using 1 pattern, and the 3 of them came out beautifully well. And I will tell you right now that I have 3 beautiful and well sewn shirts sitting in my wardrobe right now, and you guys are going to be seeing more of the things I make for my wardrobe. So thank you for watching. Amazing creatives, I love you guys so much, and once again, happy new year to you. And you guys, I'll be seeing you guys on my next video. Love and light to you. Bye for now.